Hello, slimes and non-slimes alike. Rosa here, and today I actually have shit to talk about. Yeah, finally. So if you don't know, the PTB for the Walking Dead chapter has been released, I think, last week as I'm recording this video, meaning by the time you see this video come out, chances are that the PTB has already reached live changes or is just a week away from going live. That being said, there are a couple of things I want to talk about, and a few things that I won't touch up on, such as the clown and pig changes, because I do not play clown or pig nearly enough to actually give my own two thoughts on it. So that being said, I suppose we should start off with possibly the biggest change coming that will probably affect me the most are the changes to the knight, because, you know, I play knight a little bit on the side. And most of these changes are good except for the changes to the banner times. So if you don't know, the knight is getting their increased max patrol path distance increased to 38 meters, the speed of which you create a path will be increased to 15 meters, and there will now be a buffer for the path inputting. So basically, making paths are going to be more fluid, and they're making call to arms base kit partially. So those changes I think are going to be pretty good. I haven't been able to mess around with them because I don't have access to the PTB, but from what I've heard, drawing the path feels pretty good now. The main thing I'm worried about, however, are the standard spawn times for every single guard has been changed. So the assassin is now 4 seconds, the jailer now takes 4 seconds to spawn their banners, and Carnifex takes 8. A reminder, jailer's previous time to spawn in the banner was 10 seconds, which made jailer really good at spreading pressure amongst several survivors. And if these changes do go live, I do suspect that the Carnifex is going to be used a lot more, especially in the way that I play, where I use the purple add-on, I believe. I think it's purple. It might be blue, I'm not sure. Where I use the add-on that makes it so that when a guard hits a survivor, it breaks them for like 80 seconds. Because I tend to use that to spread pressure a bit more generously and make it more difficult for survivors to, you know, reset after my guard does their job. Unfortunately, these changes will absolutely nuke that playstyle into the ground, because the banner just takes so little time to spawn in that it might as well just spawn in instantly at this point. Once again, hopefully they don't God damn, I cannot speak today. Hopefully they don't go through with those changes, and instead just make it so we keep the patrol path changes. But besides that, we also got some changes to Pyramid Head. A lot of changes to Pyramid Head, actually, mostly to his add-ons. And so Pyramid Head is getting his Punishment of the Damned buffed, and his powers is just getting buffed overall, except for his cages, which I believe now have borrowed time when you uncage a survivor. When a survivor uncages another survivor, I should say. When that happens, they now get base kit borrowed time like they do on Hook. I'm not sure if the changes also affect like activating Decisive Strike and other second chance perks like that, like it would on Hook. I don't think they did. I wouldn't be surprised, and unfortunately I wouldn't know, because once again, don't have access to the PTB. Pretty sure it's not the case, but you never know with behavior, honestly. As for the add-ons, I think most of them are pretty good. There's only like one or two that I think are questionable, if anything. I'm gonna try and find it real quick. Yeah, Burning Man's painting has been reworked so that it now reveals the aura of survivors within 3 meters for 6 seconds upon missing a Punishment of the Damned attack. I get the thought process behind this. If you miss the attack, you get aura reading on the survivor, and then you can use that aura reading to hit the survivor again through walls. Problem is, I don't think there should be add-ons that reward any character for missing their attack, and that's what this one does. Because if you miss your attack with this add-on, you just basically get free aura reading to land your second one. Which, why? Honestly, just change it so that it gives aura reading when you land the attack and not when you miss it. I think that would be fine. But besides that, I think most of the add-on changes are pretty good. As for the killer perk changes, we got a whole lot of nothing for the most part. It's just simple number changes on perks like Insidious and Hubris, Dragon's Grip, Scourge Hook. The two main changes that have everyone concerned, myself included actually, is Overwhelming Presence getting reworked, and Franklin's Demise losing its ability to deplete charges on items. So, the Overwhelming Presence rework makes it so that instead of depleting charges faster within the terror radius of the killer, it now makes it so that when a survivor starts using an item within 32 meters of you, they gain exhausted, and whenever a survivor gains exhausted, you see their aura for 4 seconds. This is this perk is just garbage. It went from being garbage to just still being garbage. But the main reason why everyone is concerned about these changes for Overwhelming Presence is because of the change to Franklin's Demise, actually. As I said, Franklin's Demise will no longer deplete charges over time when you hit a survivor's item out of their hand, which effectively kills the perk, honestly. I've heard a lot of people being all doom and gloom about how like M1 killers won't be able to counter medkits anymore. I think they're a bit over-exaggerating how devastating Franklin's Demise is against medkits, because, you know, anti-heal builds exist for a reason. But I understand the concern. There isn't really a good perk anymore to counter strong items, and now there isn't much one can do to counter items anymore. At least not through perks. Anyway. Speaking of perks, we got 6 new survivor perks coming into the game because, you know, Walking Dead Chapter 2 new survivors, including Rick Grimes and, I'm gonna butcher this name because I've never watched Walking Dead, McConey Grimes. I think that's how you pronounce it. I probably butchered that name. I'm sorry. With them it comes 2 new teamwork perks, actually. Teamwork Toughen Up, when another survivor pallet stunts or blinds the killer when you are injured and within 24 meters, your grunts of pain and scratch marks and pools of blood are reduced by 100% for 30 seconds. And then for McConey's new perk, Teamwork Throwdown, when you pallet stun or blind the killer, other injured survivors within 24 meters gain endurance and see the killer's aura for 10 seconds. Effectively, these 2 perks make pallet saves like mega buffed, and basically if you blind the killer or just get a pallet save on the survivor, the killer just kind of gets fucked because they can no longer track the survivor that they just had down, and then if they do manage to somehow track them, they have endurance. And it's a pretty powerful perk, but you know what? I see a lot of people being all doom and gloom about how this is going to be like hyper buffing like Swifts. And honestly, I couldn't care less. Because let's face it, that's sort of what the teamwork perks are supposed to be. They're supposed to be powerful when used in a group with communications, because you can't really use them outside of that. And even if you could, teamwork throw down still works. Even if you're like a solo queue survivor, if you just play altruistically, you can still get value out of the perk through pallet saves and killer blinds. You just have to play a bit more altruistically. Now, what I don't know is that if the perk actually activates if you like blind the killer when someone's over their shoulder, whether or not that survivor will be affected by the perk at all. I'm not sure. I would assume they probably would. I don't see why they wouldn't, but it's just one of those things where I wish I could test out, but unfortunately I cannot. As for the other 4 perks, we have Rick Grimes' Apocalyptic Ingenuity, where after rummaging or unlocking 2 chests, you can then rebuild pallets that are basically the party pallets from the anniversary event, actually. Like, they'll instantly break when they're thrown down, so they're only really useful for pallet stuns. This perk in particular is something to watch out for against Swifts, because it effectively makes it so that you cannot create a dead zone of pallets to prevent pallet saves. And combine that with the teamwork perks, I can definitely see the concern surrounding that. Then we have Come and Get Me, which basically, after unhooking a survivor, crouch and idle, and then press the ability 1 button to make injured and dying survivors within 24 meters leave no scratch marks or pools of blood for 15 seconds, and you reveal yourself to the killer. This perk is nothing, honestly. I don't really see much use for this perk, I'm gonna be real. It's just kinda, yeah, the killer can't get me now, haha. I'm gonna skip the next perk for Makone, actually, and go to another perk, that being Last Stand. After spending 16 seconds in the killer's terror radius and not in chase, when you fast vault, stun the killer for 3 seconds, and then if they are within 2.5 meters, they get stunned. This perk is then disabled for the rest of the trial. I don't like this perk. I don't think it sounds good or healthy for this game at all. Because effectively, you can't counter the perk. You don't know if this perk is in play until you get hit by it. And why? You literally don't know if this perk is in play until you get hit by the perk. And if you don't know if it's in play, then they basically get a free window save. I like the idea of the perk, but there's very little one can do to counter it, because it immediately disables after the trial. And in Swifts, this can be really annoying because you can have up to like 4 window saves and you would have no idea that the perk was even in play. Now, I'm pretty sure from what I've seen in the PTB, it does change the animation of the window vault, so that might be a good way to see if it's in play or not. But then again, I'm not too sure. And even still, it's probably going to be very annoying to try and work around not downing a survivor next to a window if you hit them through a window. So it's one of those perks where it might be devastating to go against, and it might not. Who knows? We'll just have to see once we get our hands on it, I suppose. And then we have the final perk, the new perk Conviction. After you healed 1 survivor while down with at least 25% recovery, press the ability button to recover instantly. You gain broken and then are down after 30 seconds. This perk does not have a limit. You can pick yourself up infinitely. Now, I have heard that Scott Jun explained that like the time it takes to recover is like a few seconds at most, and it probably is with a few perks like Tenacity and Unbreakable, which speed up the time you can, which speeds up how fast you can recover. I don't think this perk is going to be as bad in solo queue, but it's one of those perks where it's going to be devastating in Swifts only and only Swifts, because solo queue isn't going to be much of a concern in this manner for this perk specifically due to just how that perk works. Because overall in solo queue, I think a lot of my Survivor teammates just don't really play as altruistically as they would in Swifts. Not to say that they wouldn't, but the main concern about Conviction here is like you check to see if someone is gonna get like a pallet save or a flashlight save, and then by the time you go back to the Survivor to hook them, they immediately like pick themselves up and they can run again for like another 30 seconds. I think people are over exaggerating it, but I do think it's going to have some pretty strong synergy with other anti-slugging builds like Tenacity, Soul Guard, and other perks like that. And the fact that you can do this infinitely is not really helping the case. It's just one of those things where it's going to be only really concerning for this specific thing, and it's just... I'm not too sure if Conviction's going to be one of those perks that are going to be devastating, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on, that's for sure. And with that, there's only really one other thing. Not really one other thing, there's three other things. The reworks to maps and keys, and the new item overall, the Fog Vial. Personally, I think the keys look perfect. Effectively, they just give you extra items from chest. I think that's fine, as well as opening the hatch like they usually do. Maps are a bit more concerning because there's an iridescent add-on that gives infinite ore reading on the highlighted marker on the killer, which once again benefits Swifts more than solo queue. But it's just a strong add-on, honestly. It's just a pretty strong add-on on maps because you can still get value out of it even from solo queues. Just having infinite wall hacks on the killer for like 10, 20, I don't think there's even a time limit. I don't know how long the highlight marker lasts. It lasts for a while though, I know that much. As for the Fog Vials, I have heard that one of the add-ons is a bit of an accessibility issue, specifically the iridescent one. And besides that, I don't think many people have complained about the Fog Vial. I haven't gotten my hands on it because, you know, once again, can't play the PTB, but I do think the Fog Vials are going to look they do look pretty fun. But, yeah, just kind of change the iridescent add-on for the Fog Vial, and I think that they're a pretty decent item that I probably won't want to mess around with a lot. And yeah, I think that concludes my thoughts on the PTB and all those changes. So I'm going to apologize real quick because there's going to be a weird cut in the video here soon. Because everyone dies here. Like, this is a pretty massive snowball. I hear the Sable to my right when I'm going for this trap. And yeah, everyone's dead. And I hook them all. But like, they can't give up on hook. So there's just like 7 minutes of me picking up and arming traps. So there's going to be a pretty weird cut in the video here. I apologize. It's just going to immediately go into the end screen. But with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and toodaloo.